Hey everybody, I'm Scott Wilson, and I'm excited about this master class that is on leading change. Now, some of you may totally, as a leader, you're into it, that you understand leading change is a big deal. Well, basically, it's not just a big deal, it's everything we do. That's what leadership is all about. It's about taking people from where they are to where they need to be. But that sounds so simple, doesn't it? But if, as a leader, we all know it isn't very simple. Let's just first of all take leading change in our own life isn't simple, is it? It's not easy, or it may be simple, but it's not easy. I mean, losing weight, working out consistently, taking care of our health, growing and learning and making changes. Hey, what about moving your home or transitioning a job? I mean, just every bit of change, even the changes in life of your kids growing up and them leaving home and empty nesting. I mean, that's why we have people who have midlife crisis. You got all that stuff. Why? Midlife crisis is just a crisis of change. It's a crisis in your life of, oh my gosh, is this going to work? Is this not working? Am I doing well? So all of these things, even personally, change is difficult. Come on, let's just admit it. It's really hard. But now let's compound that with a whole bunch of people in an organization, in your church, trying to lead change. That's not just trying to lead one person, it's trying to lead a whole bunch of people in change. And that is extremely difficult to do. And even if it's just taking people from where they are to where we need to go, that's oversimplified, isn't it? Because the chaos in the middle is just really hard. So that's why I was even thinking about calling this leading change and living to tell about it. Because so many people have tried to lead change as a leader and not live to tell about it. I'm not talking about dying. I'm talking about getting fired, or the organization not existing. And isn't that a fear? All right, doesn't that just freak you out? Like, man, if we don't make change, we're probably going to die as a church or organization. And if we do make change, I'm not sure if we'll make that either. It's just really challenging. But here's the thing I want to just talk to you about. And I'm about to just make a change here. I want to draw something for you. Is that, guys, if we want to grow, we're going to have to change. Because all growth requires change. Now, I'm not talking about making change for change's sake. Sometimes people say, man, we need to shake things up just to shake it up, just to make a change. Listen, you can change without growing. There's a lot of people making changes that don't matter and don't make a difference and don't cause you to grow. They change things and it actually can hurt you. Change isn't the key. Growth is what we're going for. But here's the thing. You can change without growing, but you can't grow without changing. And so that's why God brought leaders into play, because the normal life cycle of any organization, of any church, is one that's going to end in death if there isn't a leader that God's using and empowering to help the church to do something different. So let me just draw it for you. I'm going to draw the life cycle here like this. And that curve, that bell curve, that life cycle looks like this. And everything starts with vision. Everything starts with vision. The whole reason why our church started, or your church started, was because there was a vision to lead people to Jesus, to make more and better disciples. That's the vision. But with every vision, you've got to have a strategy, a plan, a mission with a method. How am I going to accomplish this vision? So it may be, hey, our strategy right now is we're going to meet in this school until we can get our own building. When we get our own building, we're going to build this, and we're going to build it this way, and we're going to have a kids ministry place and all this. You have a vision, and to accomplish the vision, you have a strategy. It's the vehicle to take you from here to where you want to go. But that strategy has a point in which it's achieved its highest goal. And really, if you don't learn anything from this intro session, just this is the biggest takeaway. You ready for this? If you want to grow, you're going to change. And change means that you're going to have strategies that change, right, to make it happen. And here it is. Every strategy has a lifespan. So no matter what you're doing right now, there is a lifespan to it, that there'll be a moment, that strategy that's killer right now, it's the key to why you're growing. Guess what? It'll also be the key to why you stop growing if you don't continue to listen to the Holy Spirit leading you and what kind of strategy needs to be implemented now. So there's a moment where it reaches its pinnacle, that strategy, and now it goes into decline. Now, if you're not totally understanding what I'm saying here, let's just talk about the strategy when it comes to worship. There was a time where in worship, we people back in the day were trying to sing together, but they only knew like 5 or 6 songs, all the words and all that. And if they tried to introduce a new song, that was pretty tough. So guess what? They made a hymnal. Hymnals were very strategic. You turn to page 55, and when you get to 55, we're all on the same quote unquote page of what we're going to play on the instruments, because it has all of the notes there and everything, the music, but it also had all the words, and you got 4 whole verses that we can all go on and everything. And so you got all of that going on. That's pretty strategic. But then we got, man, there's 200 and something songs here. We'll never need a new song ever. We got plenty. And then you go, no, man, the style change, all that. So we went into what? These overhead projector things that up on the screen like this, and it's just funny. Remember that? And people are up there switching them. That was a whole ministry job, wasn't it? Switching. I'm the projector guy, And then it went up to where we have it on the screen. You can write a new song every week. Everybody know it. The words on the screen. We've adapted. Anybody who's still using a hymnal now, we would go like, God, you need to make some changes, if you want to keep growing. Do you see how each one of those strategies, worship was the vision. Singing together to glorify God and to lift it to the Lord. That's the vision. But there's different strategies. And if we didn't move with those strategic moves, people would go like, maybe we were thinking the strategy, the hymnal, the overhead projector, was more important than maybe the vision. And so that's what we're talking about here. If you stick with a strategy too long, it'll move into decline. And from that decline, you will move into a time called nostalgia. Think about that. Nostalgia is when we all talk about, my gosh, remember back in the day when it was really happening, when we were really doing it, man, we were doing so good. And sometimes even if other churches are growing, other organizations are doing well, and if we're down on the curve here where we're in decline and that nostalgia, we'll start making excuses like, well, I'll tell you right now, bless God, we're going to stick to what God's called us to do. And they're not really talking about what God's called them to do. They're spiritualizing the strategy. They're spiritualizing the function of how, the tradition of what they're doing. They're saying, I'm telling you right now, the only reason them churches are growing is because they're doing that newfangled singing, and we're sticking to the doctrine of our hymns. You get what I'm saying? And so that's nostalgia. And then eventually, if you don't make changes, it will lead to the death of the organization. Now, this is a sad story, isn't it? It's like, oh my gosh, what hope do we have? Well, there is hope. With godly leadership, there is hope. And I'm putting 2 dots on here, dot A and point B. These points are points where you can make strategic change. Here at B, you could make a change here of what you're doing, but here's the thing, there's good and bad news. The good news is everybody knows you're already on the downturn, and so you're in an incline that you need to change. The bad thing is you've lost momentum, and it's harder to change when you don't have momentum. You're just trying to hold things together. At point A, it's exactly the opposite. You still have room to grow. And so everybody's going like, why would we make changes when we're all doing great, man? Why are we trying to fix something ain't broke? But the point is you got momentum, and this is the time where you can start leading towards change. Here's what I am suggesting to you that you may want to think about doing, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about in these sessions, is about leading a change when you still have room to grow here and the momentum and that new curve. It's like this curve here comes here again. You do it again. But let me tell you about this part right here. This little part here is what I call, check this out. Let me get a better color here. Do that. Chaos. This is chaos. It's the chaos of change. Why? Because the whole time you're trying to change here, everybody's going like, why is he trying to do this? I don't understand. Why are we trying to make all these changes? This doesn't work. But then right here, when everything looks like it could have gone down and now that it's moving up, everybody goes, wow, this is wow. Man, we sure were smart to do that. But it doesn't make sense till here. Everything here is everybody's questioning, why are we doing it? This is why God gave leaders, spiritual leaders, pastors to a church, so that we could lead these moments where the Holy Spirit is leading us to make change, and we can lead it through. So let's get back to how do we do this? Well, as we looked at the leadership there, all that we just talked about, I just want to ask you, where do you see yourself on the curve? Where do you see yourself on the life cycle? And as you're seeing it, are you at a place where you're needing to make change? Are you at a place where you feel like you've got a plan to make change? It's not going to be easy, and it's not just because you have the truth of, I know this needs to happen. It doesn't always mean that it happens. We see in the scripture all the time. Moses is with the children of Israel at the promised land, the land God has promised. And what? The board goes in, or the leaders, the elders go in, the tribal leader, they go in and they spy out the land, they come back and they start going, we can't do it, can't do it, can't do it. And they vote it down. They vote it down. If you're an elder and you're watching this, be careful that you don't just analyze with eyes in the natural, but there are prayerful considerations. Look what Caleb and Joshua said. They said, oh, you're right, those walls are big. You're right, those guys are giants. You're right that the land is awesome, but is God not well able to give this to us? Come on, guys. Don't see this in the natural. Let's hear what God's saying. Come on. That's what we're talking about here in leading change. And as a pastor, our responsibility is to ask people, hey, let's don't just analyze things with these eyes. Let's have prayerful spiritual eyes that get on our face and say, Lord, what is your will? What is your way? I died. This is your church, not my church. This isn't how I want it. It's how you want it. Speak to us, God. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, this is easy for you to say. You've pastored a church, that's a bigger church or a growing church, all this. Let me tell you something. Oaks Church is 100 years old, okay? 100. You're talking about, I've been here 30 years, and there has been one transition after another, after another, after another, and every single one of them have been challenging. Every single one is challenging. But God has given us in his word principles on how to lead change and to do it successfully. And I want to teach you that. I want to share that with you, what I've learned, and especially what I've learned in this last year. At the time of this recording, we're in 2021. And you guys, you remember 2020, the year of the pandemic, and it's still going on even as I'm recording this right now. Can I tell you, in 2019, God spoke to me and my wife, Jenny, that we're to transition into a new position in our church. After being here 30 years as youth pastor, associate pastor, and 20 years as the senior pastor, God's calling us to become global pastors and to bring in a new lead pastor. Now, that global pastor position means an apostolic spiritual father type to other pastors, but that's kind of a weird title, doesn't really work well, so we went with global pastor. But it meant that we were to bring in a new lead pastor. I remember coming off of our sabbatical when God was speaking that to me, and I sat down with our board and shared that with them. They went, what? How are we going to do this? And the first thing I told them is we need a mediator. We need to get Dr. Sam Chan to come in and to mediate this transition. Because I knew that as well as I could try to lead this change, I needed somebody who was not emotionally involved, someone who cared about us, but was a seasoned veteran in leading change that could come to help us. So I got in somebody with professional, helpful eyes and heart to help us, and that's Dr. Chan. The second thing I said is, let's don't just make a change like, boom, we make it. Let's transition with a time of discovery. And so it was a unique situation because Chris and Carol Rayleigh, who I sensed that God was bringing in as our lead pastor, they were at the time the lead directors of Church Multiplication Network, the CMN Church Planting Network for the Assembly of God. And I knew that he could keep doing that, and he was preaching at different churches. I said to our board, why don't we just have him come in and preach once a month so that we can just hear him. He can be with us. We can interview him along the way, just talk about it. Is this God? We can meet with Dr. Chan to see how that's going. We can do that for several months, and God, I think, will make it clear to us. So that's what we did. Come January, we had 3 weeks of prayer and fasting. That was at the beginning of 2020, and we were praying and fasting and seeking God. And I asked every one of our board members, staff, everybody to hear from God. We did all that. It seemed good with us that God was calling Chris, and I'll tell you more about the prayer stuff in the next class. But as we did that, it became clear to us that Chris and Kara were to be the next lead pastors. Right when we were about to start processing to tell leaders and to do that, guess what happened? Yep. The COVID-19 pandemic came into play, and in March, we couldn't have services in March, April, May. So it was February, we voted as an eldership that he'd be pastor, and here we are starting to want to talk to people in transition, and we can't even gather together in March, April, May, into June. And you know what? God helped us with these principles. It even worked in the midst of a pandemic. It even worked in the midst of one of the scariest economic trials and difficulties in churches across the nation. It even worked. These principles even worked in that massive a transition. Think about it. I'm transitioning after 30 years of being here, and this is happening in the midst of a pandemic, the social injustice of everything with George Floyd and all of that going on, and yet, and 45% of all the new people coming to our church are Black. Are you hearing all of the different massive chaotic stuff going on around us in this transition? How many ways could it have gone wrong? And yet God helped us, and God helped us with the 7 keys of transition and leadership I'm going to give to you in leading change. I think these principles are powerful for you, but everything's got to start with having an understanding of where you're at and what you need to do to get to where you're wanting to go. So let me give you in this intro the things that I think you got to do first. The first thing you got to do is not try to lead change, but to figure out what changes need to happen, right? Because what does it matter if you make a change if it's not going to help you grow? You want to grow, and so what changes need to happen? So the first thing I'm going to encourage you to do is this. You got to assess some things. First thing you need to do is assess where you're at on the life cycle. Where are you at? Go back and look at it. Where are you at? Are you on this side of the curve where you're in that vision and strategic and you got a strategy and it's working, it's still going? Then perhaps it's the time right now you need to be saying, okay, so what are the things we need to know? What do we see coming forward? What's God telling us we need to do now? Or are you on the other side of decline and nostalgia? And is it time right now for you to sound an alarm perhaps in this process that, man, God, what changes do we need to make? And let's make it, whatever it is. Here's what I'm asking you to do. Don't call a board meeting right now. Don't call a staff meeting. Don't pause this and do that. No. You start with assessing it yourself. Sit down in a setting of prayer and say, God, this is your church, not mine. I don't own it. I'm a steward. Speak to me. What are you telling us to do? Speak to me. You assess it. Ask God to speak to you. Ask your spouse to assess it and to talk to you about it. Then you can move into some key staff and you're doing that. Then you can move into the rest of the staff and to your board. And then it may even be like I got a Dr. Chan to come in and you get somebody from the outside with fresh eyes that may see it, that isn't in the emotion of everything. Because let me tell you something, there's sometimes the emotions of the change are so intense that my pain threshold will not allow me to see the changes that need to happen because I just don't want to see them. They're too painful. And yet they're the changes that absolutely need to happen. So the first thing is you start assessing, but don't do anything except for starting right now. You do it, okay? Once you do that, where am I at and what needs to happen? The second thing I'm encouraging you to do is assess what needs to happen. What changes need to happen? And this is where I think the 4 helpfuls come into play. What is it that's going on that's good? You say, well, I thought we were talking about making changes and all that. Yeah, one of the changes may be to double down on what's going good and to cut some other things out and say, this is really working. So we're not going to just put 10% of our effort here. We're going to double down, do 20%, 30%. This is what's happening. Okay, what's going good? Number 2, what's going bad? What are the things right now that is not working? And the only reason we're still doing it is because that's what we've always done. The third thing is what's missing. What are things right now? Let me tell you something. Did you know that Barna is saying that in 2021, one out of every church in America is going to close? And you know the biggest reason is because many of the churches that were in 2019 and 18 and 2017, they were not online. They did not have online worship. They did not have online giving. They were slowly resisting change as much as they could. They're going, who needs that stuff? We're here together. We come together. We don't do that stuff. Well, guess what? When the pandemic hit and you can't meet together, people can't give online, and people can't worship online, those are the churches right now who may not even be able to come back together. So the point is you need to see, what are we not doing right now that we need to be doing? I'm not saying stop worshiping together. They should have in 2017 stopped worshiping together. I'm just saying maybe they should have considered that this online thing isn't going away, and it ain't a newfangled thing. It is the thing. It is what's happening. It's how life is now. The fourth thing is, what's confusing? What is it right now we need to be clarifying about our vision and where we're going and what we're doing? So the first thing is assess. Personally assess. Maybe have your spouse assess. We'll move to those other I don't want you moving. I'm going to encourage you, do not go to board, staff, or anybody else about assessing and doing any of this until you complete the whole masterclass and understand all the 7 keys, and you get a holistic view of this thing and understand. Then we come back and work through it, okay? So the first thing is you assess it. Second thing is you assess what needs to be changed. And the third thing is you need to assess the priority of which thing needs to happen first, then second, then third. What's most important? What's going to give you the biggest return? What's going to give you the biggest reward? What is it that needs to happen? And you prioritize it. Do that. Now, just because you know what needs to change doesn't mean it's going to happen easily. Just like Moses in the promised land, it can be what God promised. It's what God wants to deliver. But if the people don't see it, and if you don't help them to hear from God, if you don't help them to come into unity and alignment with what God's saying, you could have it voted down. That's happened over and over and over again throughout history. That's why I want to share the 7 keys. The 7 keys are so important. It's not just important that you know what needs to happen. It's important that you're able to lead people to accept it, buy into it, what God's saying, and to lead in it. Now, I know some of you right now are saying, well, what if I lose people? Well, let me just tell you, you're going to lose people. Here's what you need to understand. You get to choose who you lose. Yeah, write that down. You get to choose who you lose as a leader. What do I mean? I mean, listen, you're going to lose people no matter what. You're going to lose people because you didn't make changes. And guess who you're going to lose? The winners, the ones who have vision, the ones who want to make a difference for eternity in a big way and win the loss. And let's do evangelism. Let's reach people. And guess what you're going to do if you do change? You're going to lose your whiners. I know that sounds kind of mean. It just has the W's on it, the winners and the whiners. But I'm saying the people who are complaining, I don't want to change anything. I like our church the way it is. What they're really saying is, I like how it is. I don't want anybody from the outside coming in and messing it up. And I don't want to do that. But yet that was the whole reason we started, is to reach the lost. More and better disciples. And so here's the deal. You are going to lose some people. Just accept it. No matter what you do, you make the change, you're going to lose some people who don't like it. But guess what? You don't make a change, you're going to lose some people who don't like it. So you get to choose who you lose. I've made a choice to stick with what God's calling me to do, not what people are telling me to do. And if I stick with what God's calling us to do, He will bring the increase, and I can trust as a steward, I'm walking in alignment with Him. So I'm not concerned as much, even though I say I'm not concerned. It hurts my heart. It'll hurt your heart. But you got to determine what hurts your heart the most is not to be in alignment with the timing of the Lord and the leading of the Lord. Some of you right now say, you don't know my church. You don't know my situation. You don't know our people. You don't know my board. You don't know this. You're right. I don't. But I know mine, and I know what I've done for 30 years, and I know we've built 5 buildings, and I know we've transitioned 12 miles from one location that we were at for 65 years, 12 miles down the road to build a new property. It was like trying to get people to vote to move the temple from Jerusalem, you know. It was that type of sacred feeling. I know what it's like to lead a 100-year-old church. I know what it's like to have to lead, to change worship styles and to change worship schedules and to start new church. I mean, gosh, do I know. And here's what I want to share with you. The 7 keys I've learned that work even in the midst of transitioning myself from a lead pastor to a new lead pastor after 30 years of being here, in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of an uprising of social injustice and pain with the racial tension, in the midst of one of the biggest economic, difficult, scary times ever, and to be on the other side of it now and to say, God brought us through. The church is going strong. This ministry God's called us to do is going strong. I'm living to tell about it, and I want to teach you how. So the first thing I'm asking you to do right now is I want you to just sit down and to assess where you're at on the life cycle. Assess through the 4 helpfuls, what's good, what's bad, what's missing, what's confusing. What do we need to do? And put it in priority order. Don't share it with anybody except for maybe your spouse. And then I want you to go through the 7 keys. Let's go through it together and talk about not just what needs to change, but how we can do it successfully.